Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Season 6 review of Blood Bowl 3 by me, Andy Davo. I'm a professional streamer and you can definitely watch the slide deck with me as I talk it out. So, slide 1 we have matches played by season. We'll brush over this slightly, but Season 5 had the introduction of crossplay and it had a good race released, which was Necro, so we saw a massive jump in player base. Last season, we've had Stunty, so I think that's the reason for the slight drop-off. But even though we've had Stunty released, we have seen an overall general increase in player base over the last few seasons. So that's good. Concessions by season have gone up a little bit. Maybe that's because people are playing Stunty. Who knows? But broadly, it's been 24.5% and it's now on 26%. It's been up by 1.5%. It's not really the end of the world, is it? It's rather consistent. And if we go back a few seasons, it's also been like that. So concessions isn't really moving anywhere. And therefore, the introduction of a concession penalty hasn't actually done a great deal. So maybe the concession penalty needs rethinking is what this slide tells me. Coach numbers by season. We've got a little house with some pink bars. But I think it's actually showing the same thing as slide 1, really, which is that the coach numbers have been increasing. And we've actually managed to stay pretty static at 12,500 over the last 2 seasons, which I think is great. Right, coaches by games played. Coaches by games played. 1.8k of players only played 1 match in Season 6, which is broadly in line with Season 5, although it is a slight decrease. That is something that I think the game developers need to look at, and if people have got comments in chat in terms of how we can go about making people play more games, not forcing them to. You know, I'm not talking about holding firearms to heads here. I'm talking about what is going wrong? Why are people not playing more than 1 game? How can we introduce them to play a few more games? Because once we've got them to play, it does look like, right, they do stay here. That's where the next 3 bars are broadly in line. They'll play up to 40 matches. Rainer says more of an reward or incentive. Yeah, maybe. Oh dear. So, average games by a coach. Season 6 had a distinct drop-off. So a lot of people who liked Stunty played them. Sorry, the Season 6 played them, but some people did not. So I'm really curious to see how Season 7, what will happen in Season 7 here. But we've had a distinct drop-off and average games per coach. Race stats. So if you're curious about what's happening in the ladder and why do the VIPs make the changes or the suggested changes that they suggest, this is the data that underpins a lot of this. And Orcs and Dwarves have been the most popular race last season, and they were basically the 2 most popular races the season before, apart from Necro. So Orcs, Dwarves and Necro 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Chaos Chosen were 4 and 4, and Lizard Men 4, 5 and then 6. So the top of the ladder is pretty well defined in terms of what plays there. And if you go down as far as Shambling Undead, the top 7 are the top 7, just with slight racial or seasonal disparate changes. Broadly in line with what happened in Blood Bowl 2, no doubt. However, if you've only got a handful of races being played disproportionately more than any of the others, if any method that can be found to try and suggest that people play other races, it gives a better ladder experience and a slightly wider fulfillment. So I think it would be nice to see people incentivized to play Wood Elves, Imperial Nobility, and take the bottom 6 and what can we do to try and get people to play those, and at the same time not nerf Orcs and Dwarves, but disincentivize people playing Orcs and Dwarves. Now you're curious about what the win rates are, and these 2 slides do sort of broadly go hand in hand. The most powerful races are the ones that win rate the most, and those races are the ones that are played a lot. So Shambling Undead, Orcs, Necro, Skaven, Lizards, Dwarfs, Dark Elves. The top 8 were broadly the top 8 before, and then the racial stuff falls off. So it's not... Why do people play the most popular races? Because they're good. What else? Because they don't die. That's what that's showing. Who is playing who? So how is this is showing effectively how well or not is the matchmaker working. because are we getting nice tight games, or are we getting lots of games which are spiking considerably? It's not a surprise, I think, to see that the 300k plus games have gone up over here at 9,000, because with Season 6, we saw the introduction of being allowed to mess with your team value range artificially. So I think that the 300k stuff is probably a function of people playing halflings and goblins and wanting to play uphill a lot. However, it's broadly working, right? Most games take place between 0 and 50k TV, and the second most is less than 100k. So it would suggest that matches based on TV difference are fairly standard, fairly static. And we don't see lots of concessions in this. However, there are a lot of games played here, so we've got a lot of matches. You're more likely to see a concession between 0 and 50k because that's where the volume of the games are played. But broadly, the two sets of bars follow, so there isn't a big wild difference at 200 plus TV. If you like a good wall of percentages, let me present to you a wall of percentages. I'm not going to go through this. In fact, I'm not going to talk about this. If you're interested in this, you'll pause the video and you'll have a look at it. But if you were ever curious about what race wins against what race in Blood Bowl 3, that is the wall. So, enjoy. I'm not reading that out. What's the highest? Let's see if I can spot the highest. Shambling Undead versus Black Orcs. The Undead win 61% of the time. Wood Elves versus Black Orcs, they won 62% of the time. We've got some 70s in here, Jesus. Oh, Goblins versus proper teams, yeah. So Goblins don't do very well against most teams. But anyway, if you're interested in that, pile through. And I think that's the last slide. Let's have a quick look. Oops, I've pressed the wrong button. It is indeed. Oh no, last one here. Race stats versus previous season appendix. So that's the showing the data tables that this is built on, just to demonstrate that there is quite a lot of data that goes into this. So it is there. So if you're interested in any more of this, I'll put the link to the slide deck in chat now, and you can flick through this at leisure.